Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching this short video. This is our lightning talk, which is part of our position paper submitted to Indigenous Computational Futures and Arizona State University. My name is Phil Steinhauer Mojeko, and I'm submitting this on behalf of our organization, the Indigenous Connectivity Institute. And this paper is called nêhiyawak Networks, Indigenous or Cree Philosophies and Digital Connectivity. Boy, that's a mouthful. Phil Steinhauer Mojeko Nitsiga son, Amisquachiwa Skaigan Otsinea Egua Moginsisewigian. My name is Phil Steinhauer Mojeko, and my belly button place is Edmonton, aka Beaver Hills Lodge, which is in Treaty 6 territory, that's central Alberta. And I presently live and reside and play in the place called Where the Bow Meets the Elbow River, otherwise known as Calgary, Alberta, which is in Treaty 7. It's about 150 miles south of Edmonton in southern Alberta. And I work for the Indigenous Connectivity Institute, which is a Native-owned and operated and led nonprofit organization that works to advance Indigenous self-determination through connectivity and digital equity. So this call for position papers kind of presented us with an opportunity, for us to kind of blend and juxtapose our own mandate at the ICI, which is the mission, vision, values, and kind of our overarching philosophy that guides us, and our work plan with some of the research I did during graduate studies, which was a capstone that explored digital equity for First Nations. So, core to my own beliefs is the wonder or concern of how digital connectivity impacts and interrelates with nêhiyawak or Native peoples, and more importantly, or more specifically, with our Cree code of Wagottoin, which translates to relationship. And this is part of Cree natural law. And this position paper functions kind of as a provocation, one which examines and challenges our assumptions, perhaps even our own at the Indigenous Connectivity Institutes. And part of the problem, as we see it, lies in the notion that digital connectivity has a decidedly positive impact for Indigenous peoples, at least with respect to how the current digital and telecommunications landscape is presently constituted. So, digital connectivity is not equitable, not inclusive, and we recognize there are a huge number of barriers and challenges for tribes and Indigenous communities to overcome, particularly those of us in rural, remote, and northern areas. So, the capstone upon which this position paper is based was done in the Faculty of Arts at the University of Alberta, but was more of a Native studies paper, heavily influenced by perspectives and literature encountered therein. The research questions informing this position paper are as follows. What do Indigenous communities use digital connectivity for? How do Indigenous communities approach or engage with digital connectivity? What are the holistic impacts of the internet for Indigenous peoples? And how does digital connectivity interact with Indigenous culture and tradition? And I kind of use indigenous and pan-indigenous language, although my home nation of Onichixwapoan and the people who took part in this research study with me, some relatives and kin from Saddle Lake for a Cree Nation, this kind of serve as a proxy for indigenous experience. So this position paper took shape through an in-depth literature review, autoethnography, and a talking circle framed as a research conversation. And the talking circle took place in Saddle Lake Cree Nation at my family's ceremonial lodge, the Inner Sanctum, on reserve in Saddle Lake. And it was a ceremony unto itself, and protocols were followed. And I must say that crafting the interview, quote unquote, questions for the talking circle itself was very difficult. And you can't really moderate, even if you have a semi-structured interview template, you can't really moderate or control the flow of a talking circle conversation. For any of you who have conducted a talking circle or been in a talking circle, I'm certain you're aware. So talking circles are very much regulating. And there is very much a need on the part of the moderator or the person asking questions to be present and to be your authentic self and to be genuine when you're there participating in that circle. You're not an objective observer. And I must note that after the talking circle concluded, a participant somewhat facetiously mentioned to me that now that I had mined or harvested the data that I needed in my own community, that I could now go out into the world and do with it what I will. And I have a good relationship with with this individual, and they're a relative of mine. And this was a comment partly in jest. However, research does change the nature of the relationship, even with kin. And I'm acutely aware of that. So I wanted to make that mention. I'm going to end it with this kind of takeaway or quote that is from my uncle Stuart Steinhauer, who's a Cree carver, granite carver, and artist. So during the talking circle, he said this: through the internet, I feel like I'm watching this monster called the West self destruct. And of course, I'm cheering it on. But it means that I am right in the middle of it because the West has engulfed Turtle Island, sits on top of Turtle Island. I'm in a race between my death and finishing my projects I want before the collapse of Western civilization, and the internet is playing an interesting role in all of that. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in Phoenix next week, and I look forward to hearing from and watching all your videos. Ai hai, exe.